My name is Taylor Sherman. I'm an associate professor in the Department of International History. How am I preparing for next year? Well, I'm recording some 15-minute, 20-minute lectures for first-year undergraduate courses, and I'm also trying to think about how we can adjust our master's program so that students can get the most out of blended learning. So I run a master's program called the MSc in Empires, Colonialism and Globalisation. That master's program has a core course, HY423. It has the same name, just call it Empires for simplicity. And that core course covers 600 years of world history. So in some weeks, we actually cover 500 or 600 years in a single week. So it's a very big course. So even in a normal year, I use Moodle to help students come to grips with a larger range of literature than they could cover themselves. So in a normal week, I ask students to read a couple of items from the reading list and choose one to write a critical reading summary of, and then they post that critical reading summary on Moodle. So that critical reading summary is about 500, 600 words. They have to do a couple of things. They have to find the argument and summarize it. They have to find some evidence, one or two examples that they might use in an essay to prove how the author proves her argument. And then they have to critically evaluate that argument, usually by situating it amongst other texts and talking about how convincing the argument is. So in a normal classroom setting where we have 2-hour seminars, students do that work before the seminar. They do their reading, they write their summary, they post their summary, and they also read all the other summaries before the seminar. The aim is to get them to come to grips with a very wide reading list. So if they didn't read a book, they can read the summary and kind of grasp what that book said. And you see that come out in the seminar. So they'll say, I can't remember which summary it was, but somebody said that during the Ottomans, blah, 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 blah. And so they then use these summaries as if they were their own work, as they are. Reading them is their own work. They use them to help bring the conversation forward in the seminars. I would give 2 pieces of advice. The first is about using these reading summaries no matter how you use them. And the second is if you use them with a Zoom seminar. So if you use reading summaries just generally, I would say be careful, because every student will choose the first reading on the reading list. So I make them claim a reading a week beforehand so that they have to distribute themselves across the reading list. I make sure that some of them are aware that I would really, if there's an important book that is only available in the library in hard copy, I flag that up to them so that somebody actually goes to that big building with all the books in it, tracks down that book and does a reading summary of that book. So make sure that you find a way to distribute them across the reading list so they actually don't all read the same thing. The second piece of advice I would give on just using reading summaries generally is that students will stop doing them if they don't get feedback. Even if they use them in the seminars, if you as a teacher are not responding to them, then they will stop doing them. So I always promise to give feedback 3 times a term to all students. And that feedback sometimes can come orally in class. Everybody's doing this thing right, everybody's doing that thing wrong or could improve on this element. And it also comes in the form of a quick email reply saying, well done, you got this right. I would consider working on these few aspects next time you write your summary. Without feedback, students just stop doing it, even if they're useful for them. So that's my advice for using reading summaries more generally. But when we all moved to Zoom sessions, I actually used the reading summaries to begin the seminar discussion. So everybody posted their reading summaries. They always have pre-circulated questions. And after posting their summaries, they then got in groups of 2 or 3 and began answering the pre-circulated discussion questions. There are 4 or 5 discussion questions. I asked them, we broke them into groups, and I asked them to answer 1 discussion question each. And then they began to reply to each other So everybody had to post one answer to a discussion question and one reply. And then on the basis of those answers, I then had I scheduled a 40-minute Zoom seminar. So the normal 2-hour seminar was reduced to 40 minutes when we moved online. We ran over. The students were enthusiastic and they ran over. So we actually did more like an hour-long seminar. But it helped reduce that time on Zoom. I feel like it's very stressful for me to be on Zoom to keep track of everybody's faces. Also, I get a headache because I'm making my pleasant and I'm listening face the whole time on Zoom. And students also get exhausted and distracted. So using the reading summaries and starting some of the discussion on Moodle beforehand helped reduce the amount of time everybody had to spend on Zoom. So one of the things that I found very useful in the Moodle discussions of the pre-circulated questions is that sometimes a debate would come to light between students in these Moodle discussions. So if we ever return to a normal, whether it's new normal or old normal, I will every couple of weeks use Moodle forums to get students to begin answering one of the seminar questions. And then once I get the first round of answers out of them, as it were, I can then ask a follow-up question that then allows us to go into greater depth in the seminar when we meet in person. So I think in some ways the Moodle seminar discussion groups allow them to get out that kind of superficial answer, and then I can help them push more deeper when we go into the live discussion. So I'll keep doing that, I think. Maybe not every week, but occasionally.